Well, good morning, Andrea. How are you today?
I'm great.
All right. Well, welcome to the presentation.
Thank you.
You know, this month I've been really concentrating on talking about the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids. I find that it's something that is so essential, but a lot of people, they just seem to skip this part of it.
Yeah, when I was taking A&P in college and learned that healthy fats make up all the cellular membrane, I was like, well, if that's the case, that's pretty important.
Pretty important, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to a friend of mine. I was talking to his sister last week. You got your camera pointing toward the headliner in your car, by the way.
But you can't see me anyway, right?
No, I can see it.
You can see me, but I don't think anybody else can see me.
Oh, yeah. Everybody can see it.
I don't see me.
So, I was talking to his sister, and she said, well, the reason she doesn't take omega-3s is because she doesn't like the taste.
Who tastes it? Just put it in there and swallow it.
Well, a lot of cheaper, less expensive omega-3s, they give you that fishy taste. You burp up that fish taste.
Yeah, a chiropractor I worked with said you can always tell a good fish oil by how it smells. He said, if it smells bad, don't buy it.
Yep, and that's what she said. She said she just couldn't handle taking it because of the smell and the taste and all of that. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I guess, the big thing that I'll tell people is that when you're having a problem digesting and you're getting that fishy taste, a lot of times it does indicate that you're low on stomach acid.
Yeah. That's interesting. Drink more coffee.
Well, that's not, that's not going to produce more stomach acid. You actually
releases it.
Yeah, you have to. You actually have to get your body to produce more stomach acid. That's another topic of discussion later on.
Right.
But you can actually test the acidity of your stomach and all of that. Another thing that people can do, kind of a trick that I found years ago, was having people actually freeze their fish oil capsules.
Okay.
And by freezing it, doesn't hurt the fish oil capsule, but what it does is when you go to take it, it has to melt before it's absorbed into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives it a better chance of not being broken down. But what I like about our fish oil is that it's enteric coated, and it doesn't give you that fishy taste anyhow.
Right.
So there's a lot of benefits to it. Fish oils have been studied probably more than any other nutrient.
Really?
They've known for years that omega-3s. I remember when I first got into practice, omega-3 and vitamin C, calcium, they were like three of the only vitamins I carried on my shelf.
Uh-huh.
Because I thought it was that beneficial. So they found that omega-3s are very beneficial for helping people with anxiety and depression. This is one of the most common mental disorders across the globe. People get sad, they get lethargic, they get just a real loss of interest in life. I've been there. I'm sure you've had some times of depression.
Sure, everybody does.
Yeah, after my motorcycle, I didn't want to deal with people. I didn't want to be around people at all. Yep.
The ebb and flow of life. Mountaintops and valleys.
Mountaintops and valleys. I like mountaintops. People find that when they take omega-3s, their symptoms improve. And EPA, one of the oils found in fish oil, is found to be just as effective as antidepressant drugs.
Really? That's interesting and really good.
Yeah. So for people who are vegans, again, and I'm not picking on you if you're vegan, but I'm just saying that if you're vegan, you got to remember that most of your plant-based omega-3s, well, all your plant-based omega-3s, they have something called ALA, alpha lipoic acid. And this acid, this fatty acid, it actually has to break down and be metabolized and converted into EPA before your body can have EPA. And it's not a very efficient process.
So it helps with anxiety and depression because it helps build the hormones that you need?
Yeah, so it helps. It helps with the hormones, and it's it gets rid of inflammation. So, but you want to use EPA, not your plant-based ALA.
Okay, EPA.
Yeah. They also found that DHA was one of the most common components of your retina of your eye, and they found that macular degeneration is one of the leading causes of blindness on the planet.
Yeah, and I always thought that must be some kind of nutritional deficiency. Never studied it.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago we were talking about fish oil versus krill oil, and remember, krill oil has more DHA than fish oil.
Okay. So
when you see these supplements that have like our supplement that has fish oil and krill oil, that means you're getting the EPA, which we just talked about, which is great for the anxiety and the depression, and DHA is great for vision problems.
Awesome.
Yeah. So again, if you're taking a plant source of of fish of omegas, sorry, I screwed up on my talk there. If you're taking a plant source of omegas, you're probably not getting any DHA unless you've studied where to get it from algae sources and you're taking that. But a lot of people, they just count on that they're going to take their olive oil and their flaxseed oil and they think they're going to get enough, but they show that they don't.
Right.
Omega-3 is crucial for brain health and development in infants. DHA, again, the one that was good for the eyes, the one that comes from krill oil, it accounts for 40% of the brain tissue.
Yeah, and I recently saw Tom post on a question and answer page that, the children should all be taking these omegas for brain health.
They should be taking the omegas?
For brain development, yep.
Yeah. Yep. And people ask me all the time, well, do they have to take the full dose?
Do they?
Well, my answer really is that when you look at the RDA, the RDA is developed around a 150-pound man. So really, if you're an infant, or a child, if you're 50 pounds, for example, I guess there's not many 50-pound infants, but if there's a 50-pound child, then take a third of a dose.
Right.
But here's what they found, when you were talking about kids, they found that infants that were fed a DHA formulated formula, they have better eyesight than kids who weren't. They found that these children had a higher intelligence. They found that they had better communication and social skills. They had fewer behavioral problems later in life and decreased risk of developmental delay as an infant. Plus, it lowered the risk of ADHD and autism, as well as cerebral palsy.
So there's the benefits of all your omegas wrapped right up in that little report.
There, right?
Yep.
Heart health. They found that heart attacks and strokes, of course, being the leading cause of death in the planet, they found that communities that eat lots of fish have lower risk of lower rates of heart disease and strokes.
Yep, we've heard that for years.
Yeah, the omega-3s reduce the triglycerides, reduce blood pressure, raise the HDL cholesterol, keep the platelets from clumping and causing clots, keep the arteries smooth and free from plaque, and reduce inflammation.
Good to know.
All good stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Then we start looking at this ADHD. You know, I don't know. When I was a kid, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that I had kids in my class that had ADHD.
Maybe not.
But it sure seems like you hear about it a lot more.
Yeah, you do.
So, did you know that when schools, some of these schools, like in the poor neighborhoods, when they have like kids that have ADHD, the school actually gets paid from the government because of that?
Oh, yeah. So they want to have a lot more kids diagnosed with that, right?
Yeah. They found that there was kind of an epidemic of it, that the schools where the counselors were diagnosing a lot of kids with it, because then that school would get a lot of money from the government. Plus, in certain neighborhoods, the family would actually get paid as well.
Oh, really? Hadn't heard that.
Yeah. So it was beneficial for the family to have the kids diagnosed. And then I don't know if it's still going on today. I'm sure it is. But then the parents would take the drugs, right, and turn around and sell them on the street because it's so closely related to cocaine.
Mm. So basically, those drugs, you're giving your kids cocaine, when you might just give them some natural omegas and help their brain activity.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The studies show that when you give these kids the omega-3s, it lowers the risk of the ADHD developing in the first place, reduces the symptoms, reduces the inattention, the hyperactivity, the impulsiveness, the restlessness, reduces all of that. And they found that when you look at the different omega-3s, the different things on the oil, on the market, I mean, yeah, fish oil was the best.
Awesome.
Right on. Metabolic syndrome.
80% of the country has that.
Huh?
80% of the country has that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be obese to have metabolic syndrome. I think a lot of people think that, but it is a buildup of central obesity, which is called belly fat, but it also causes high blood pressure, insulin resistance, high triglycerides, and then it lowers the good fats. It's a major health concern because it's a risk factor for getting all these other diseases on top of it, like diabetes later on in life, Alzheimer's disease, all of those things, heart attack, stroke, cancer. So omega-3 fats have been found to help with all of that. Inflammation. Yeah, I was looking for photos to put on this slide for inflammation. I saw this one. Holy cow, that's got it.
That looks painful.
Isn't that what you think too when you see that photo? It's like, that has to hurt.
Yep.
You know, look at those bright red, shiny joints like that. And, you know, inflammation is a normal response. You don't want to get rid of all the inflammation.
Right. We've talked about that.
Yeah, it's how your body gets rid of infection. It's how it gets rid of damage. If you sprain your ankle, inflammation is natural. It's vital. But when it gets to be chronic, low-grade, long-standing inflammation, then it's not healthy at all. It can cause heart disease. It can cause cancer. It can cause joint problems. And so omega-3s have been found to reduce the production of the molecules and substances that are linked to inflammation, like the cytokines and the inflammatory eicosanoids. Mm-hmm. So omega-3s lower the inflammation.
Sounds like they're pretty important to the health of the body.
Yeah, again, it's the EPA, that's the anti-inflammatory part. And then we talk about autoimmune disorders. You know, that's where your immune system, it thinks that you're not normal. Well, in your case, but it thinks that you're not laughing at them.
I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said that your immune system thinks that you're not normal.
I know I'm not normal.
But, your
Thank
immune
God.
system, it starts to attack the different areas of your body because it thinks that it's foreign cells. It's like it's not supposed to be there. Type 1 diabetes is an example of it. And that's where the immune system starts to attack the cells of the pancreas. And so they found that if they give enough omega-3 fats during the first year of life, it reduced the risk of this type 1 diabetes.
Huh. It's pretty interesting that we've spent the last 40 years being told not to eat anything that had fat in it. And now we have all these autoimmune diseases. I mean, they're calling everything autoimmune. I just
a lot of them are.
Pardon?
A lot of diseases are when you break it down.
Yeah, but, it's like I've just recently heard that type 1 diabetes is considered autoimmune, where I never related that to autoimmune before. Just recently.
You never knew that type 1 diabetes was autoimmune?
No, it's diabetes, so I figured it was, of course, some kind of malfunction with the pancreas because, people get it at a young age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's where, it sensitizes the body to a protein found in milk, actually. And so they found that certain people react to milk, and then their immune system says, hey, if this is bad, then we should go look for other things that look like that protein in milk. And it attacks these cells in the pancreas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did see something about that, which is interesting because, in the past 20 years ago, I was told or heard that, you should give children under the age of 2 whole milk, not skim milk or 2% milk, because they need the fats for brain development.
Yeah. But the problem is that, with the immune system, it's not the fats or the sugars, but it's the protein. And with the different caseins, there's casein A1 and casein A2, and so that's where the issue kind of comes in, is that the immune system is sensitized.
Mm-hmm.
So goat's milk.
I guess my point is these fats, these omegas, are extremely important for all kinds of development in children. That's
right. Yep, the omega-3s from the milk, but yeah, again, because of the casein, but goat's milk or non-pasteurized, where it's raw milk would be better. And it's still pasteurized. When they say raw milk, I mean, you realize it's still pasteurized, right?
No.
What they do is, in order to be able to sell raw milk, they still have to pasteurize it, but they do it slower. They do like a slow cook and at a lower temperature, rather than doing the really high temperature, so it doesn't destroy all the enzymes in the milk.
Oh, well, guess what? When I was a kid, I ate raw milk right out of the cow at my grandparents' farm. We did too. I was just telling a friend of mine that I remember going to his farm and getting 5 gallons of milk at a time. We'd go out there on a Sunday, and by Thursday we'd go out and get another 5 gallons. Right. We went through a lot of milk, but they found that omega-3s, they can work with people with lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, psoriasis, all these different things. MS. Yeah. Schizophrenia and bipolar, other psychiatric disorder, they found that there's always a low omega-3 level associated with these disorders. And they found that if they can get people to take high doses of omega-3s, and last week we were talking about high doses of omega-3s. I mean, you might have to take 5,000 units. How many units? 5,000. Okay. That's a lot.
when you consider that the average supplement gives 1,000.
Okay.
Right. So like after we did that talk last week, actually it was a couple weeks ago, I doubled up on my omega-3s. I actually started taking a double dose.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you, here's my personal testimony. My leg feels better now than it has in a long time.
Really? Are you happier? Are you happier?
Oh, I'm always pretty happy. Yeah. I'm happier that my leg doesn't hurt.
Right.
But yeah, I found that since I bumped up my omega-3s, I actually have more flexibility in my ankle.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. They found that with omega-3s, it helps people with Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay.
If you get it to them when they just first get diagnosed, you can actually help treat it, is what some of the studies are saying.
Well, yeah, there's a whole video out there by a doctor from Florida whose husband had dementia quite bad, and she had him tested. And one of the tests was gave him a pencil and told him to draw a clock, and what he drew was just all over the place. She went home and gave him coconut oil, a lot of coconut oil. 2 months later, he could draw a clock, and they've improved his health now to the point where he can like stay alone during the day again, where before she could have somebody come in. Yeah.
Wow. With coconut oil.
With coconut oil. So imagine if he got all these great oils that we're discussing.
Yeah. Yeah. Combine the coconut oil with the omega-3s and yeah, man. But like it said in the bottom of the screen here, we need a lot more research into this. But the problem with it, Andrea, is that there's no money in researching vitamins.
Right.
You can't patent them. So therefore, but like we talked about last week, they took that omega-3 and they isolated the EPA, and they made a drug with 4,000 units of EPA only, and they're calling that a drug now.
And how much did you say that cost a month?
$250.
$250.
250 buckaroonies.
That's crazy. And probably the people who get prescribed that medication don't even know that they're just getting oil. They're getting omega fat. They're just getting
a manipulated fish oil. That's all they're getting.
Yeah. $250.
Crazy stuff. Cancer, cancer is one of the leading causes of death in the Western world. Last year it was actually in 2018, or maybe it's 2017, because they reported in 2018. So it must have been 2017 that cancer actually passed heart disease as the #1 killing disease in America.
Right. Well, that kind of goes back to my thoughts when I was in college, when they said that, our cell membranes are made up of these fats, to be strong.
Yeah.
And in my little pea brain, I went, well, if we need strong cell membrane to prevent against, disruption of cells, then wouldn't it stand to reason that would give us prevention against the big C?
That's right. Yeah, they found that people that had a higher consumption of omega-3s actually had a 55% lower risk of colon cancer.
50% lower risk.
55% lower risk.
55% lower risk of colon cancer. That's pretty important.
That's significant, isn't it?
It's huge.
Wouldn't you think that your doctors would tell you? They'd say, hey, Andrea, you want to lower your risk of colon cancer? You want to lower your risk of breast cancer? Because last week or 2 weeks ago, we reported that omega-3 has helped lower the risk of breast cancer.
Yeah.
And prostate cancer in men.
So, wow. No wonder you want to talk about this every week. It's important.
This is important stuff. But what happens is people say, oh, I don't like the taste of fish oil.
Well, I take our omegas. I don't taste anything at all.
Right? That's what I try and tell people. Asthma. My son had asthma. And one of the things that I used when he had asthma was omega-3s. We used fish oil along with some immune boosting things like it was like fucoidan. We didn't have fucoidan at that time. And then we took him off of the dairy. It turned out that dairy, commercial dairy, was actually what triggered it.
Ah.
Yeah. But boy, I remember, how dangerous is asthma, man. We would be out hunting and doing things like that. And all of a sudden my kid would turn blue on me. And I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, that's scary. We've actually lost a family member due to asthma.
Yeah. And they found that omega-3 consumption lowers your risk of developing asthma, and it lowers the asthma attacks when you have this omega-3.
Well, I'm coming to the conclusion that these omegas should be a staple, that you just have it all the time.
It shouldn't even be a question. It should be, I guess that's why they call it essential.
Essential, yes.
Essential omega-3 fatty acids. I think we need to stress the essential part.
Right.
Supra essential omega plus.
Yeah, because we're not getting a high quality of these in our foods at all.
No, not at all. When you take a look at, what was it, the beginning of the month, I reported that when you take a look at the diet, we're supposed to have like in ancient times, it was 1-to-1. When one omega-3 for every omega-6. Then they kind of said, well, we're not going to get people to have a 1-to-1 ratio. Let's go with 4-to-1. And they said 4-to-1 is healthy. And then they went to 8-to-1. In today's world, they're finding that people have a omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio of close to 25-to-1.
I remember you talking about that. Like you were saying, a serving of sweet and sour chicken gave you 30,000 milligrams of omega-6 or something. Yeah.
So you'd have to take 30 doses of the omega-3 fish oils to balance that out.
Yep.
It ain't gonna happen. We ain't gonna get people to do it.
Like all of the snack foods and everything have all those really bad oils in them. Like, I don't even remember, but I know I just read a label the other day and I went, what? I'm not eating this. It was oil after oil after oil, but it was all bad oil.
Yeah. And here on this slide, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is getting to be more and more common because of the obesity epidemic.
Yeah.
Metabolic syndrome. It's more common in the Western world than it is in the third world nation.
Yep.
Omega-3s reduces that. Bone and joint health. They find that osteoporosis and arthritis are two common disorders. And omega-3 actually helps boost the amount of calcium absorbed into the bone. And that leads to less osteoporosis. And then because it gets rid of inflammation, it reduces the risk of arthritis as well.
Well, a lot of people have that and suffer with it.
Yeah. Well, I was reading a study on longevity yesterday, and they said that your grip strength is highly associated with your longevity.
Yeah, your grip strength, I was taught, is a real indicator of what condition your spine is in, too.
That's right.
Subluxation.
That's right. I used to measure that people would come in on their initial exam. We would measure that, and then we'd measure it periodically to see how it's doing, because the nerves from the neck go right down into the arm and the hand. And so if there's problems with that, it's going to cause decreased grip strength. So really we can say not only does omega-3 help with the bones and the joints, but it helps with longevity as well.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Well, I can do my own little experiment. I don't know if you can see my fat knuckles. Can you see them?
Is that from being German? Is that what you said?
No. I said I can do my own experiment. I'll double up on my omegas. Since I started using the age pill, all the pain went out of those joints.
Really?
But they're still like huge. Like that ring will never come off that finger. So, yeah, I'll just double up on my omegas and see if it helps.
Double up on omegas. And then they found that omega-3s help with menstrual pain better than over-the-counter pain medication.
So that might go back to the hormone thing or something.
Yeah, and inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, remember it lowers those cytokines and inflammatory hormones. Yeah. So I mean,
can we take too much? Like, let's say a woman normally experiences menstrual pain. If she upped her omegas, like, 2 or 3 days before that and during that, can you take too much?
No.
No? Oh, that's good to know.
No, I mean, I suppose you can. I shouldn't say no, because you can get too much of anything. You can get too much water.
Right.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to do the whole bottle, but like if they just upped it, they could experiment with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't say just take it and up it just 2 or 3 days before. I mean, lower your omega-6s, increase your omega-3s, get closer to that 1-to-1 ratio. Get as close as you can.
Right.
And like one of the posts that I made on Facebook over the weekend, it talked about wild game meat.
Mm-hmm.
Venison and elk and wild buffalo and all of that. They found that wild game have a ratio closer to that 1-to-1. I think it was like 3-to-1, 4-to-1, versus if you go buy a steak at the grocery store, a commercial hamburger, it's so loaded with the omega-6s because we feed these animals corn. And then that corn converts into the omega-6s versus the omega-3s.
Right. Well, that would work out where you're at probably. Here in Michigan, everybody grows corn or soybeans. So all of our wild whitetails are eating corn. Well,
you might think that, but if you sit in a tree, I'm sure you take a look at your son, he'll sit in a tree, he's bow hunting. That deer doesn't just go stand in a cornfield and eat. They go and they eat some acorn, they eat some tree bark, they eat grass, they eat this, they eat that, they eat a little bit of corn. But so that's kind of a misconception that people think, oh, the deer, and I'm sure it affects them some, but not as much as what you'd think it does.
Okay.
So improve sleep. They found that omega-3s help you sleep better. And good sleep is good for your health. It's good for longevity. Sleep deprivation has been shown to be a cause of obesity, diabetes, depression, sleep apnea in adults. DHA, here's this DHA again, linked to when you have low levels of DHA, you have lower levels of melatonin.
Ah.
So if you're having poor sleep, and did you know that sleep is like, what is it, like the 4th most common symptom of stress?
Lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep, not being able to sleep, stressed out, waking up in the middle of the night. Right?
Yep.
And another study that I read here, I'm starting to sound like Cliff Clavin, aren't I? You remember Cliff Clavin?
Cheers.
But, they found that interrupted sleep is actually worse for you than getting less hours of sleep.
Right.
If you get woken up in the middle of the night, like people, guys will tell me, oh, I got to get up and pee in the middle of the night because of the prostate as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, I say, well, that's actually worse for you than if you just got 6 good hours of sleep.
Right.
Healthy skin. Here's what you were talking about earlier. Again, look at the oil that they're talking about. DHA, krill oil. And you were talking about the cell membrane.
Yes.
I knew I saw it in one of the slides I was making this morning. We were about the cell membrane. So they're finding that healthy cell membrane helps to make it so you have wrinkle-free skin.
Sounds marvelous.
Sounds marvelous, huh? It prevents that hyperkeratinization, right? You see these people that have the red bumps on their arms.
Yep.
They find that EPA, right? There's that term again. It helps prevent that hyperkeratinization. It reduces the premature aging of the skin, reduces the risk of acne. It protects the skin from that sun damage, where the collagen gets broken down from sun exposure.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So overall, it's a full system support.
Maybe that's why Eskimos have healthy looking skin.
Mm-hmm.
You ever looked at an Eskimo skin?
Oh, plus they do keto.
Yeah, they eat that whale fat. So bottom line is what happened there?
Bring your bottom line back.
Bottom line is that the omega-3s are good for you. And if you can get them from your diet, because I always have people tell me, well, I'm just going to eat right. Okay. I mean, I'm all for that, which means that you have to eat fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week. You got to eat wild game to get the balance. I think it's tough in today's world.
Yeah, it is.
And out here in the Midwest where we are, we don't have a good source of fish. We can't go to the market and buy fish at a reasonable price. It's expensive, and most of the fish you buy in the store, it's farm raised.
Right. And there's there's pollution issues and stuff with fish too.
Yep. But so if you don't have a good source of fish, supplements are the best way of going.
That's right.
And we've talked about the Super Omega Plus. It should be called the Essential Super Omega Plus maybe.
Right. It should be after all this information you've shared with us.
Holy cow, Andrea. If people aren't taking us after what they've heard us talk about the last 3 weeks, they're not listening.
Right.
They're just not listening. Super Omega Plus has a balance. It's got a balance between, the omega-3s and the omega-6s. It's got fish oil. It's got krill oil. So you're getting the EPA and the DHA. Mm-hmm. Plus, the plus part, we've thrown in the CoQ10.
Yeah.
And it's the right form of the CoQ10. So it actually does some good for the body.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yep. I don't think that there's much more that you could cover on omegas.
Yeah. It's a great product. It's essential.
Sounds like it, for sure.
All right. Well, Andrea, thanks for joining me again this Tuesday. We'll be back next Tuesday. If you want, I'll let you close out the call and you have a wonderful day building whatever you're going to be building with that wood that I saw in the back of your truck.
Yeah, it's sticking out of my car 8 feet.
Yeah, when I first saw that photo, when you showed me that, I thought maybe like you run into the back of a truck and a board went through your windshield.
No, I just use my SUV as a truck.
There you go. I used to do that too. So, all right, I'll let you close out the call. Yeah. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Give us the thumbs up. Give us the old smiley face. Let us know what you think, and maybe share it with people. Let them know that Super Mega Plus is really an essential part of a daily lifestyle. So over to you.
That's for sure. Thank you, Doc. Thanks for sharing this information, doing the research for us. And all we have to do is share this. And based on just this conversation that Doc shared today, I'm sure you have tons of people who could benefit from this knowledge. So go ahead and share this over to them. Go ahead and invite them to this Facebook page, Doctor's Clinic, Doc This with Friends. We do this every Tuesday, and then these lives are still just stored in that page. If you can't make it here at Tuesday at noon, you can come back that night or the next day and watch it. Invite some friends in who are seeking health and to optimize their health span like we all are. And anyone who's getting this message, get back with the friend who shared it with you or shared it on their wall to find out how you can get a hold of these products and get more information about them. So have a great day.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Doc.
Bye.